And welcome to Healing Highway for May 2026. This is episode number 5 of 7. I'm Christopher, and I'm so glad you've made it to this episode. And wherever you're listening from today, I hope you'll take a second and check in with yourself. Not the version that you're answering emails or just trying to get through the day. Let's get to the quieter version, the one underneath all of that. Now, a lot of you have reached out in the last couple of months saying the same thing, but just in different words. You're tired and you're not sure why. You're moving, but you're not sure where. You keep waiting for some moment when the pace slows down and you finally feel caught up, and that moment keeps not arriving. Well, I hear that. I've lived that. That landed with me because most of us don't fall apart all at once. We drift. We move faster. We carry more. We lose touch with ourselves 1 mile at a time. And sometimes it takes a road like this to help us find our way back. So why does Healing Highway exist? Well, because life has a way of pulling us out of ourselves. Responsibilities stack up. Expectations creep in. The pace increases without asking us for permission, and before long, we're functioning, we're producing, and we're showing up. But, well, we don't quite feel like ourselves anymore. We're not broken, we're not in crisis, we're just kind of disconnected. Now, I didn't build Healing Highway to fix that. I built this to create a space for it. Space to notice. Space to breathe. Space to remember that, well, sometimes what we need isn't a solution. It's distance from the noise long enough for us to hear something true again. And that's where this story comes from. So this is story number 5 I wrote on my road to healing. It's entitled, Still More Road Ahead. Now, I've driven Route 66 in every state but one. From California's desert wind to the sandstone cliffs of New Mexico. The neon diners, the ghost towns, the wide open silence that stretches like a balm across Arizona, Oklahoma, and Texas. I've rolled through all of it. All of it but one. Illinois. That one stretch, the beginning technically of the mother road, has managed to slip through my fingers. Missed it when I left Ohio heading west, missed it again coming back from the Pacific. I got tired. I was ready to come home and turned around. It's the last piece I haven't driven. And in some strange way, that missing leg keeps the dream alive. See, I didn't set out to do Route 66 in some checklist kind of way. I wasn't trying to collect motel postcards or snap selfies at every kitschy little roadside stop. I just needed space. The kind you don't find on an interstate. It's the kind that lets your spirit catch its breath. Because the truth is, I hit the road in pieces. Not broken exactly, just stretched kind of thin. Like so many of us, I had the fog behind my eyes and that tightness in my chest, that quiet hum of exhaustion that doesn't shut off when the laptop does. And one day I just knew I needed to go somewhere that didn't need anything from me. So I drove. I didn't overthink it. I just followed the road where it wanted me to go. And, well, what I found mile by mile was something slower, something quieter, something healing, not in that dramatic change your life in a weekend kind of way, but in a gentle kind, the kind that sneaks up on you between gas stations and forgotten towns, under those wide skies and diners where no one cares what you do for a living. And somewhere in New Mexico, I pulled off at a trading post, and I bought a cup of coffee in one of those paper cups, and the wind picked up a little dust devil in the parking lot I was standing in. Nothing special, no epiphany, but something in me exhaled. And I started to feel human again. That's the magic of this road. It doesn't care how many emails you've ignored. It doesn't ask you to hustle or to fix yourself. It just rolls in front of you and says, hey, you good? Let's keep going. There's a kind of therapy that happens behind the wheel at 55 miles an hour. with nothing but static on the radio and a sky big enough to remind you that your problems aren't permanent. Out there, healing doesn't come on cue, it comes when it's ready. It's in a diner booth, at a gas pump, sitting on a motel bed staring at a map you forgot you'd been tracing with your finger. And that map? It still has Illinois waiting. Funny thing is, I don't feel incomplete. You see, that last leg isn't a failure to me. It's more like an invitation. It reminds me that the journey isn't finished, and neither am I. I think we all need something like that, a stretch of road we haven't driven yet, something still ahead. Some place calling us not because we need to escape, but because we're ready to return to ourselves. Now, one day I'll drive that Illinois stretch from Joliet down through the old alignments. I'm going to sit in a booth somewhere near Pontiac. I'm going to order something smothered in gravy and let that last piece click into place. But even before I get there, Route 66 has already done its work. It gave me time. It gave me silence. It gave me a place to feel small in the best possible way. And it gave me back the parts of myself that the rush of life has worn thin. So if your spirit is running low, if your heart feels tangled and your head's too full, you don't need a grand plan. You just need a tank of gas and a little room to unravel. Now, go ahead and start wherever you are. Go as far as you need to and leave space for what's still to come. Because sometimes the healing isn't what you've completed. It's in knowing that there's still more road ahead. So every time I finish up a story, I try to give you 3 things that are worth carrying with you. First, you don't need a finished journey to feel like yourself again. That idea that we have to complete something before we've earned rest is one of those more damaging lies we absorb from culture. Healing often starts not at the finish line, but somewhere in the middle. Maybe a paper cup full of coffee in a dusty parking lot when something you find inside of you finally exhales. Second, leave something unfinished on purpose. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that undriven stretch of Illinois is not a failure to me. It's an anchor to the future. When everything feels like it has to be resolved right now, having one thing still out there ahead of you kind of gives you a reason to keep moving towards something, not just away from something. That's not avoidance. That's kind of like hope with an address. And third, when the spirit is running low, you don't need a plan. You need a direction. A tank of gas and a little room to unravel, as the story put it. You don't have to know where you're going to know you need to go. Movement, even without destination, can return you to yourself in ways that, sitting still and, waiting never will. None of that fixes everything, but it helps you find your footing again. So what do you say? Let's take a look at this month's Healing Highway Challenge. This month, I want you to identify one thing in your life that's still unfinished and sit with it differently. Not with anxiety, not with guilt. Just look at it for a while and say, that's still out there. That's still mine. So maybe it's a trip you haven't taken, a conversation you haven't had, a project that's been on the back burner so long you've stopped thinking about it as a real thing. I'm not expecting you to finish it this month. Just reclaim it. Think of it as something you haven't failed to do, but as something you're still moving towards. Write it down somewhere. Give it back its name, and let the fact that it's waiting remind you that you're not done yet either. Because something, what you're looking for, isn't missing. It's been waiting for you to slow down long enough to notice it again. From the Chaplain's Corner, it's a quiet word for the soul. There's kind of a grace that arrives not when you're finally gotten everything right, but when you're still in the middle of figuring it all out. I think that's worth sitting with for a moment. Most of us carry a quiet belief that we should be further along now, further along in healing and further along in peace and the sense of who we are and where we're going. And when the gap between where we are and where we think we should be is too wide, we start to confuse incompleteness with failure. But incomplete is not the same as broken. A road that hasn't been driven yet is still a road. The story I share today is exactly that. A person who has driven Route 66 in every state but one. Not because they gave up, not because they ran out of something, just because life moves in pieces. And sometimes the last piece takes a little longer to get to. And in the waiting, that missing stretch became something more than a gap on a map. It became a reminder that the journey is still open. If you're feeling stretched thin right now, if the fog behind your eyes won't quite clear up and the weight in your chest doesn't have an easy name, I want you to hear this. You're not behind. You're not failing at being yourself. You're just a person mid-journey doing what honest people do. You're showing up, you're getting through, keeping one eye on the road ahead. And that is enough for today. So I want you to rest in that. And because Route 66 turns 100 this year, each episode of the Mother Road pauses somewhere along Route 66. This month, we stop in Hackberry, Arizona. It's easy to miss if you're moving too fast, which is exactly why it matters. Hackberry General Store sits out there in the high desert like something time set down gently and walked away from, a little tilted, a little rusted, completely honest about what it is. Its old gas pumps are standing out in the yard, vintage signs leaning against the walls, and the whole place feels like it exhaled decades ago, and it never quite had a reason to breathe back in at a different speed. In the centennial year, when everyone is talking about Route 66 at full volume, Hackberry is the quiet version of that same conversation. It has been here, it has waited, and it's still here. The road doesn't change you, it just gives you enough space to notice what's been there all along. Sometimes that's enough. So, if you've got a question, a story, or something you'd like me to explore in a future episode, you can reach me through the website or drop me an email. The email address, letstalk@healinghighwaypodcast.com. That's letstalk@healinghighwaypodcast.com. I read every message. And if this episode met you where you are, I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss the next one that's coming up. Healing Highway drops the first Sunday of every month. And if you know someone who feels a little disconnected lately, invite them along. The road is better traveled when it's traveled together. So, thanks again for spending time with me. And remember this, the healing is not always in what you have finished. Sometimes it's in knowing that there's still more road ahead, and you're still the one driving. Hey, travel well, my friends. Have faith and good courage.